Imagine a king so powerful that even the winds obeyed him. When he spoke, birds carried his words across mountains. When he raised his hand, the jinn, unseen beings of incredible strength, rushed to build palaces and carve mountains at his command. His army stretched across the land, men, jinn, and birds marching together in perfect lines. The earth shook beneath them, the skies bent above them. Yet, in the middle of this unstoppable army, a tiny creature no bigger than your fingernail raised its voice. An ant. Yes, an ant. "Run into your homes," it cried to its people. "Sulaiman's army might crush you without knowing it." And here is the mystery. The great king heard the ants whisper. He stopped. He smiled. He lifted his hands and prayed. This was no ordinary king. This was a prophet chosen by Allah. His throne was greater than gold, his wisdom brighter than jewels. But his true secret, the mystery of his power, was something far greater than armies, palaces, or treasures. Do you want to know the secret of Prophet Sulaiman's power? Turn the page. And the mystery begins. Sulaiman was not just any king. He was a prophet chosen by Allah, blessed with wisdom from a young age. When other children played games, he was learning about justice, mercy, and truth. Allah gave him a gift no other human had ever been given: the power to understand the speech of animals, birds, and even the tiniest creatures on the ground. It was a secret so great that even mighty rulers would one day tremble before it. Sulaiman's army was unlike anything the world had ever seen. He did not only command soldiers of men. With him marched creatures of the unseen, the jinn, strong and swift, hidden from the eyes of ordinary people. They built palaces, guarded treasures, and worked in perfect obedience. Above him flew birds in vast flocks, serving as scouts and messengers. They could soar over mountains and deserts, bringing news from faraway lands within moments. And when Sulaiman moved, the winds themselves carried him. But despite all this power, Sulaiman's heart was humble. He knew that none of these gifts belonged to him. They were from Allah, a test to see if he would be thankful or arrogant. One bright day, Sulaiman led his army across the valley. The ground trembled under the steady march of thousands of men in shining armor, birds circling in the sky, jinn moving in silent ranks. The air itself seemed to bow before him. Beneath the earth, in a little village no bigger than a hand's span, lived a community of ants. They were busy gathering food, carrying tiny crumbs on their backs, and whispering to one another in their secret language. Suddenly, the earth shook. Dust filled the air. The ants froze in fear. From among them, a small but wise ant raised her voice. Her tiny heart pounded as she cried out, "O ants, run into your homes quickly. Sulaiman's army is marching this way. They might crush you without realizing it." Her warning echoed through the tunnels, and the ants scrambled, hurrying into their shelters. High above, Sulaiman was riding with his soldiers. His sharp ears caught the ants' cry, though no one else could hear it. He slowed his march. He looked down at the ground, smiling gently. Think of it. The most powerful king on earth, hearing the tiny voice of an ant. Sulaiman's heart filled with warmth. He laughed softly, not in mockery, but in joy. He was amazed by how Allah had blessed him with such a gift, the ability to understand the smallest of creatures, to know their fears, and to protect them. He lifted his hands in prayer and whispered, "My Lord, help me to always be grateful for your favors, the ones you gave me and the ones you gave my parents. Help me to do deeds that please you, and admit me, by your mercy, into the company of your righteous servants." This was Sulaiman's secret. It was not his throne, nor his armies, nor his treasures that made him powerful. His real strength came from Allah, and from his constant gratitude. Even with winds at his command and armies at his side, he never forgot the truth. The king, above all kings, is Allah. And that is why Allah raised Sulaiman above all others, because he was thankful, humble, and just. Sulaiman's kingdom was unlike any other in history. His palace stood tall, its walls glimmering like glass, its pillars carved from stone brought from distant mountains by the jinn who served him. Around him fountains sparkled, and gardens bloomed with fruits of every kind. The air was filled with the songs of birds, not just chirping, but speaking in words only he could understand. When Sulaiman sat upon his throne, the entire world seemed to bow. Men waited for his judgment, birds hovered in the skies above, and the jinn stood in silence, awaiting his command. Even the winds, invisible yet mighty, circled like guards, ready to lift him wherever he wished. To people, this throne was the center of power. To Sulaiman, it was something far greater, a test from Allah. He remembered the day when he looked over his vast kingdom, his eyes tracing the horizon where the desert met the sky. He whispered to himself, "This is the favor of my Lord. To test me, will I be grateful, or will I be ungrateful?" His words were simple, but his heart trembled. He knew that many kings before him had been destroyed by arrogance. They thought their thrones made them untouchable. Their armies made them gods. But Sulaiman knew the truth. Without Allah, even the mightiest throne was nothing but dust. The jinn built towers, palaces, and even statues at Sulaiman's command. They dove into the seas, bringing him treasures of pearls and jewels. The winds carried him across deserts and oceans in moments, faster than any caravan. But none of this made Sulaiman forget the ants. Yes, the ants. He remembered how easily an army could crush the weakest creatures without even knowing. He remembered their cries. And so, in every judgment, in every decision, he asked himself, "Am I protecting the weak, as Allah has commanded me?" One evening, as the sun sank behind the horizon and painted the sky in gold and red, Sulaiman sat upon his shining throne. The jinn lit torches, the birds settled upon the walls, and his people gathered before him with questions of justice. A man came forward with a complaint against his neighbor. Another came with a dispute over land. And even as Sulaiman listened to each one, he knew that what made his throne strong was not gold, or silver, or armies, but justice. A throne without justice is empty. A king without gratitude is lost. And so, Sulaiman ruled with wisdom, knowing that his throne was not his own. It was a trust, a gift from Allah, and one day it would return to him. This was the hidden secret of Sulaiman's throne. It was not built on stone or crystal, but on faith, justice, and gratitude. And that is why his kingdom became the greatest the world had ever known. Far away from Sulaiman's shining throne, beyond deserts and mountains, there was another kingdom, the land of Sheba. It was ruled by a powerful and clever woman, the queen, Bilqis. Her palace was grand, her armies were strong, and her people were loyal. But there was a secret in her kingdom, one that troubled the skies above. They worshipped the sun instead of Allah. One day, as Sulaiman sat among his army of birds and jinn, he noticed one bird missing, the hoopoe, known for flying far and bringing news from distant lands. When the hoopoe finally returned, it flapped its wings in haste, as if carrying a message too heavy to hold. Sulaiman listened. "I have come from Sheba," the bird chirped, "and I bring you certain news. I found a woman ruling over them. She has been given everything: wealth, power, a mighty throne. Yet she and her people bow down to the sun instead of Allah. Sulaiman's eyes narrowed. Here was a kingdom blessed with riches, but blind to the truth of their creator. He picked up his pen and wrote a simple but powerful letter. From Sulaiman. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most kind. Do not be proud against me, but come to me in surrender to Allah. In tender one, he handed the letter to the hoopoe. The little bird spread its wings and flew across the sky, carrying the message of truth into the heart of Sheba. When the queen received it, she called her advisors. The letter was short, but it carried a weight she could not ignore. She read it aloud, her voice steady, though her heart was uncertain. Her advisors urged her to prepare for war, but Belqis was wise. Kings, when they enter a city, destroy it and humiliate its people, she said. I will test him instead. And so, she sent Sulaiman gifts, treasures of gold, jewels, and precious things, to see if he could be swayed. But Sulaiman smiled when the gifts arrived. What Allah has given me is far better, he said. You are the ones who are dazzled by gold. I seek only that you worship Allah, the Lord of all worlds. The test had only begun. The Queen of Sheba had tested Sulaiman with gifts of gold and treasure. She expected him to be dazzled, like other kings. But Sulaiman was no ordinary king. When her messengers arrived, with riches stacked high, Sulaiman's eyes did not wander. He waved the treasures aside. What Allah has given me is far greater, he said firmly. I do not want your wealth. I only want you to worship Allah, the Lord of all. The messengers returned, their arms still heavy with gifts. The queen listened in silence, her heart unsettled. Who was this king who did not bend to gold? Who was this man whose power reached beyond armies, beyond treasures, beyond what the eyes could see? At last, she decided. She would go to Sulaiman herself. News reached Sulaiman that the queen was on her way, traveling with her attendants across the desert. Sulaiman wanted her to see with her own eyes the greatness of Allah. So he turned to his council. His voice echoed across the hall. Which one of you will bring me her throne before she arrives in submission? The jinn stepped forward, tall and strong. One said, I will bring it to you before you rise from your seat. But then, quietly, another man, one who had knowledge from the book of Allah, stepped forward. I will bring it to you, he said, in the blink of an eye. And before Sulaiman's eyes, in less than a heartbeat, the queen's throne appeared. Majestic, heavy, carved with jewels, it stood there in his palace as if it had always been his. Sulaiman's breath caught for a moment, but instead of pride, his heart filled with awe. He whispered, This is from the favor of my Lord. To test me, will I give thanks, or will I deny him? Whoever gives thanks, it is only for his own good. And whoever is ungrateful, surely, my Lord is free of all needs, most generous. When the queen finally entered Sulaiman's hall, she looked around in astonishment. She was shown her own throne, but it was changed slightly. Is this your throne? Sulaiman asked. The queen blinked. She recognized it, yet it seemed transformed. She hesitated, then said, It looks as though it is the same. Sulaiman watched her closely. Her mind was working, her heart stirring. Allah was guiding her step by step. Then, she was invited into the great hall. The floor beneath her sparkled like flowing water. To her eyes, it seemed like a deep, shining river. Not wishing to wet her garments, she lifted her dress and prepared to step across, but Sulaiman stopped her gently. It is not water, he said. It is a floor of glass. The queen gasped. Her heart shook. She had seen many wonders, but none like this. She realized then that Sulaiman's power was not his own. It was the gift of Allah. the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Her voice trembled, but her words were strong. My Lord, I have wronged myself. I now submit, with Sulaiman, to Allah, the Lord of all worlds. The palace was silent after the Queen of Sheba's words. Her attendants stood frozen, her guards lowered their heads, and even the birds in Sulaiman's hall seemed to quiet their wings. The Queen's voice still lingered in the air. My Lord, I have wronged myself. I now submit, with Sulaiman, to Allah, the Lord of all worlds. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause. Sulaiman's heart was filled with gratitude. He looked at the Queen, not with pride, but with relief. Another heart had been guided to the truth. Another nation had turned away from worshipping the sun to worshipping the one who created it. But Sulaiman knew the lesson was not about thrones, palaces, or armies. The mystery that so many whispered about the secret of his power was not hidden in gold, glass, or even the throne that had been brought in the blink of an eye. It was something deeper. Sulaiman remembered the ants. He remembered the bird that carried the message. He remembered the winds that lifted him and the jinn that built for him. Each gift was powerful. Each gift was astonishing. But each gift was also a test. He whispered in his heart, "The true strength is not in what I command, but in who I serve. It is not in what I hold, but in what I give thanks for. All power belongs only to Allah." As the Queen settled into her new faith, the people of Sheba followed her. A nation that once bowed to the sun now bowed to the creator of the Sunday. And this was Sulaiman's greatest victory, not a kingdom built on stone, but a kingdom of hearts turning to Allah. Years passed. Sulaiman continued to rule with justice, wisdom, and humility. His armies grew, his palaces shone, and his fame spread across the earth. Yet he never let the mystery of his power slip into arrogance. Whenever people marveled at his throne, his miracles, or his vast kingdom, he reminded them, "This is from the favor of my Lord. To test me, will I be grateful or ungrateful?" In the end, the mystery was solved. Sulaiman's power did not come from a ring. It did not come from a throne. It did not come from treasures, armies, or even the winds. His power came from faith, from gratitude, and from his complete submission to Allah. And so, his story remains not just as the tale of a king, but as the shining example of a servant of Allah who understood the greatest secret of all. Real power is to be thankful, to be humble, and to serve Allah, the Lord of the worlds.